tutti se petri, caira batustuere matre spura, tacerenti, kutu. Piri che tutte rispagliano già, su cui amatosci, tempa contro spiratu, ancora. Continua ma suonare ieri sirio, tempa che contro spagnato, te tu.
Hi, everyone. At the table, we have myself, Vox Angeles, and Andana Sananda Kumara, and we would like to welcome Laura Pierett to the Light Language Conversation. And we are so happy to have you join us.
Thank you. I'm just thrilled to be here.
Welcome.
It's a delight to be invited.
Absolutely. We're so happy to have you here. I had an opportunity to listen to one of your sound alchemy sessions, and it was so mesmerizing. I could feel all of that energy. So I'm so excited for us to have an opportunity to speak with you and to bring out what it is to endeavor in this light language space. So welcome.
Well, now, Laura, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, but really, I think what we're interested in most is how did you come to embark upon this path? I mean, how did it all begin for you?
For me, it was kicking and screaming. I ended up with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue when I had twin babies in cribs. And I had a, career I loved as a photojournalist and adventure and all of this, great capacity for activity. And all of a sudden, it took about 4 years of, doctors just saying, well, of course you're tired, you have little kids, of course you're sick, you have little kids, and finally my mother went to a psychic who said, ma'am, I need to tell you about your children, and said, I'm seeing the wrong doctors. And so with that, I ended up at a rheumatologist who diagnosed me within 2 weeks of my mother having that reading, and said it was incurable. And my whole life exploded, because here I was not functioning the way I wanted in a life that was really demanding. My husband traveled 50% of the time. We had only been in our new house, in a new community, didn't know anybody for about 6 months. And I didn't know what to do. Where do you go from there? And so my dad was a surgeon and my sister was a nurse, and all the allopathic method had been all I had known. And suddenly that was closed to me with the words incurable. And so when one door closes, and it was the most remarkable thing. It's just synchronicities, overhearing conversations. I'm in a restaurant. What? Fibromyalgia? What do you know about that? And just one thing after another, and just amazing people, in a health food store, a woman takes me by the hand and leads me to what worked for her. And, those divinely guided experiences is the only way I can explain that. So I ended up taking an energy healing class, trying to learn to work on myself, because I didn't have the time to go to somebody else with the babies at home. And, one thing led to another, and 7 weeks after a Reiki class, before I had even had an attunement, I was so much better from 7 weeks of simply an hour a day meditation, which was a big deal in a life when I have twins, babies, an hour a day, and not to spend that with my husband. I mean, you talk about love, self-love, that's a commitment to yourself. And my whole life started turning around. And when I then I took Healing Touch, 3 years, program. I took all the levels of Reiki. So my whole focus in the beginning was energy healing. And in about 2003, in that process, I got into a reconnective healing class. And the teacher was talking about Moldavite. So I put a piece of Moldavite in my pocket, walked around for a week, and I started speaking light language. Didn't know what it was. It took years before anybody even told me what it was, but it was coming through in my healing work. It was coming through with animals. If I was praying over my food, it would just flow. And so I just, it had been a complete journey of trust since the word incurable. And that's where I went with it. So when I finally was really feeling well and healthy, which was a whole lot of some years and a lot of work and introspection, and all that opened up my communication with my inner guidance, and a choice that I will never be able to read enough books or go to enough healers or with wise ones or sit in enough presentations to have whatever it was I thought that I didn't have enough of. And so it was an absolute commitment to just choose, I'm enough. I'm enough. Every moment of my life, I'm enough. And drop all that external search. I still did it for fun and interest, but I started to just accept where I was, love where I was, be where I was. All the rest could come in as, icing on the cake kind of thing. But it was really a commitment that I don't need to search outside of myself to really heal, to know myself, to find my answers, to be enough. And this came about after some years of going and having a lot of readings, sessions, learning, taking classes and all. I'm not saying that happened overnight, but that's where I got to. And then it was like, well, with all that I have in any moment that is enough, what can I share? How can I bring that to bless others as I've been blessed? And I've always felt that that's kind of inherent. We all have a desire to share what we have, to share what we know, to bring forth what blessed us. And so for a number of years, that became my journey, was, having a website and offering all of that through sessions with people and some groups. You had mentioned the Elohim, and that was one of my first groups. The Elohim asked me to do a group called Gifts of the Elohim, and just once a month for about an hour and a half, just gather people and have no story behind it. Don't tell them what it is. Tell them it's an energetic experience. Come if you wish, but don't put words on it, because, my words would limit somebody else's experience. And that was really where I began, was just these once a month Gifts of the Elohim groups. And I would just open up to light language, and people were having amazing experiences and reflecting that back to me. And so then I got a little confidence. It's like, oh, that's cool. What else can we do? So, it's just this unfolding.
Well, it's really interesting because I'm, listening to you, there's just so many things that you're reflecting back to me from my own life that are just like spot on as to my own, the unfoldment of my own journey, and just being told that, that there's that realization all of a sudden that nothing external, it's an internal force that is actually the precipitation of my evolution and so forth. So
I call that alchemy, an inner alchemy, because there was resistance. I didn't want to be these weird people, that I didn't understand before all this opened and it became my own experience. I mean, my neighbors, I was in a very small parochial town raising my kids in a place that was not comfortable to come out and explain, to be like this, even as a healer, and, trying to protect my kids so that, the parents would let their kids come play with my kids and not call me a witch or something, and that was happening. It was really awkward. So again and again, it's kind of like you get pushed. Are you going to stand up for what you know? Are you going to stand in what you believe? Are you going to let people diminish you? Because people can't diminish you. You can only diminish yourself by agreeing with them. Right? So, yikes, that was not comfortable. And, people quoting scripture at me, and I was like, okay, well, I didn't really have confidence because I didn't know where it was coming from. Even my healing teachers challenged me by saying, well, this is a process. Healing touch say, we know what it is. We've had physicists explain why it works. If you don't know who you're channeling or where it's coming from, should you be doing that? And yet I was having even more profound healings happen when I was just doing me, being me, than when I was staying in the techniques, And I really had to choose at a certain point. They really said, you have to choose. You're either going to do this that you're certified for, or God knows what. And I said, God knows what. Okay. I couldn't stay in a box. That inner alchemy of pushing for more of yourself, to discover and be more of yourself, doesn't let you stay in someone else's box. And it's not always comfortable, but it is kind of relentless.
As you own yourself, as you stepped into that authentic space, how's your family responded to you and the light language?
Well, they love me. They're not into any of this. I mean, my husband's open-minded enough to the concept of, broad-based spirituality kind of thing he actually used to be a photographer for the Christian Science Monitor. So he had traveled with some writers who healed themselves when they were overseas and got sick. And so he had a little basis for that, even more than I did. But, my kids are self-described atheists. And so I asked him, how do you deal with that conflict of thinking I'm bogus, And they said, that's not a conflict. We can love and respect you while we don't agree. And I thought, I've raised some really great kids. Because what more could you want your kids to be able to be in life where they can love and respect people they don't agree with? Isn't that what we need in the planet right now?
Yeah, that's all a part of embracing you, embracing self, learning self, loving self, and then having that reflected back at you, because to love yourself is to be accepting of all things, of all aspects of self, and to receive that from the external is a reflection of your own ability to love self, right?
I think I've found along those lines as well, just with my own family, it's pretty much the same thing. They're not in resonance with what it is that I'm doing, but it seems like the more that I have been doing this work, and they're seeing the changes within myself, and they're seeing the changes and the responses of other people, there's just a great honoring and respect, as you stated, for what it is that we're doing, even though they don't understand it. And I think my husband and daughter are loyal to a fault, even though they don't understand what it is that I'm doing. And I think that's really an amazing thing. Yeah.
Well, I had to really claim it in myself without needing it from beyond me. And I think in a way, like I can remember sitting with a girlfriend at over a glass of wine at the kitchen table, and she was a reader, and saying, what is it, these three men in my life who don't, really support and get this? I feel like I'm being stonewalled. And so she started pushing on the wine bottle to where it almost fell over, but it reseated itself on the table. And she did this again. I'm like, what is your point? What are you trying to tell me? And she said, you contracted with them to stonewall you and challenge you until you claimed yourself. And when you do that, because it'll be sunlight on their faces, they'll be beyond that contract. They don't have to sit in that opposition with you anymore. So when you claim yourself and you honor what they're doing for you, which you're currently calling stonewalling, but honestly, it's their contract and agreement to get you to stop looking outside of yourself for support, agreement, respect, and to claim that inside yourself. And when you do that, your entire relationship will change with them. And boy, did it. It really did. And I just couldn't see it because, we're very busy projecting until, we shift through that projection, and then we can have a very new reality.
Well, I don't know about Andana, but that was a beautiful teaching right there that just really hit my heart.
For me too.
Absolutely.
It changed my whole life. Shall I give you one
Yes,
more that really flipped my reality?
Yes.
absolutely. Go
All
ahead.
right. So my mom was this amazing, beautiful soul. Everybody loved her, and she was kind and giving and generous and fun and quirky and all of that. You know, of course, I wanted to be just like her. Um, and so, but her idea of compassion was whatever time, attention, energy, wisdom, money, whatever you have that can alleviate someone else's suffering, you do that. You give that. And she didn't have boundaries, right? So I learned not to have boundaries, and I learned to give and give. And I mean, I had people, calling me from around the world and calling me at 8 o'clock at night and wanting to talk, and, just no boundaries. It's like, oh my gosh, this person just discovered they have cancer. Of course I'm going to make time. Meanwhile, my husband's over there being like, hello, right here. And, it felt like everything was crisis and important, and you had to give your time and attention, or, for that person to feel loved and for you to feel like a loving being who's kind and, the person that I thought I wanted to be. So my understanding of compassion was very much without having boundaries to someone else's suffering. And I'm a healer, well, I have something I can offer, I should do that. And I was getting very drained and depleted. And I read somebody else's definition of compassion, and it completely flipped my life. Are you compassionate enough to allow another person their experience? I'm a much more whole, balanced, loving, compassionate person now that I have that freedom to be the witness and hold love without needing to change it, because it's painful to watch somebody else suffer. And we want to change it. We want to have an impact. But if you know who you are and you are love incarnate, you don't have to prove it. You don't have to justify it. And you don't have to have that reflected back to you. You just be it. And you don't need to rescue or change someone else's experience because it's uncomfortable anymore.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. That is one of the most profound lessons for the light worker, the self-proclaimed light worker, to learn, because
Isn't
you
it?
exhaust the self. It is. You exhaust the self thinking that it's your responsibility to save everyone, but it's not, because we're all sovereign beings here having the experiences we've chosen to have them, as we need to have them in order to come into the experiences that we desire to have as to be incarnated. Yeah.
Truth.
Profound.
You speak
Absolutely.
truth there. Yes. And
so I have a question for you.
Yes.
What would you say is your personal definition of light language as you perceive it?
Honestly, the first thing I was ever told is it's the language of love. I feel it's an engine of grace. I really do. I feel that it bypasses the mind and works like a spiritual solvent at levels and layers that the mind isn't interfering with because it doesn't understand. And it works at that vibrational level that makes you feel safe. It's something that can, resonate, awake some kind of remembrance we don't even have a memory or words for at a conscious human, memory level. But boy, the whole soul complex of your totality of being can start to vibrate in that. And sometimes it can come through shamanistic and powerful and almost scary. And I have done that in nature at places like, Kilauea Volcano, I was there, or Grand Canyon. And I mean, people who are near me when I'm doing, I mean, people near me jumped and ran for their cars and terrified of what is this happening and what is this woman doing? And yet other times it can come through like this most gentle lullaby. It can melt you clean out of your ego, clean out of your belief in your stories and your unforgiveness. And it can just melt you beyond all of that. And it holds you. I feel like it brings, I'm getting goosebumps. Ooh. I feel like it brings forth into this experience the very thing that we talk about having lost in the fall. It can do that. It doesn't always, but I feel like it has the element of Shekinah, that divine feminine that was lost in the Garden of Eden is how it's described. And Shekinah was one of the first words I ever said repeatedly when I started light language in 2003. And it was the one thing I could recognize. Oh, I'm saying that again and again. So I wrote it down and I went to the bookstore and trying to find a reference for it because I couldn't even find it on Google. And it was in a Jewish book about, it was the word that just defined the divine feminine withdrawn in the Garden of Eden. And I feel that light language can bring that back. And it's the thing we're all searching for, isn't it? It's a kind of, it's not just, I guess I want to call that grace. Because when we call it love, kind of like when we speak about God, people have their own definitions of what does that mean, which is why I use the word source more often. Love, everybody has definitions of, but very often distorted ones, painful ones. And so I like to, describe it as grace, because that seems like something that really transcends the distortions. I mean, I don't know of any negative concept or definition for grace, some dual concept. So to me, light language is as an engine or an aspect and a gift of grace. And it comes from beyond what we have agenda for.
I've always thought of grace, because I use that term as well, as really being the opportunity or availability that resides within us through our God self, through source. Right? And so when you speak of light language as essentially grace, it speaks to the availability and the ability for anyone and everyone to be able to tap into this higher force of expression. And that to me is grace.
Yes. However, somebody else might tap into a grace differently, which would be perfect for them. And so silence might be that for someone else. It might be a sensation in the body. Like I think everyone has the capacity for light language because it's part of our nature. It's part of how we express when we're not in form. But I want to be really clear that if you're not accessing it in this lifetime, it doesn't mean you're lacking what it connects you to. Because we're all star essence beings. We all have star nature. And that's what I feel we're moving to, is that resonance. And a lot of people describe light language as star languages. And I do think it can be that. I think it can come from before star systems even existed, the star beings and star systems. I feel like it is a vibrational sound of creation. Like you go back to the Elohim, that transcends all creation, that moves through and creates creation in its forms. And so, I like my little friend here, the star, because the question is, where are you perceiving yourself? Somewhere along a ray, or at the tip in the omega point, now we're on our return, at the 0 point, the void space center, creation, all the spaces between the rays, everything is part of creation. And it's really, where are we viewing from? Where are we experiencing from? What are we tapping into at any given moment? But it's all there for us. And so if you follow back a ray long enough, you're likely to end up at another soul expression or another star system at a point that you have concurrent experiences, because it's all now. People talk about the spiral of time. It's like all these emanations from a center point are going out, and where they, you could say, land in the cosmos, in space, and those space-time coordinates that we find ourselves tapping into through resonance. Resonance is the key, I feel, that we're moving into, because otherwise it'd just be so overwhelming. Everything's available all at once, but everything isn't overwhelming you, because what you're accessing is what you're resonating to. And that's where two things become so close together, they feel like one. And that's how we experience love with another. We go so beyond what they represent, what they believe, how they appear. And this is what's starting to happen. And we're starting to have recognition of the soul, spirit, essence of a being, almost even before we walk up and recognize their appearance, as how they appear. Like, because you recognize they didn't look like this last time I felt this person. And so the appearance becomes less significant or reference point for us. And, because when we didn't have the resonation to a remembrance of, this feels like something I know, I'm in accordance, core dance with this one. Yes, this excitement, there's some possibility here. There's something pulsing. There's something I want to know or explore or experience with this, because I feel it, right? But in the old energy, you'd meet someone, you'd have no real strong sense of it. You'd need lots of little coffee meetings before you really felt like, well, I know this person enough that I want to see them again or get to know them better. It was just so unintuitive. Not anymore. I mean, now we're starting to feel a person long before we get to the chatter that reveals more from the mind. And that's very exciting, because what's starting to happen is we're really, you talk about the law of attraction, you see that figure 8, it goes out and it comes back. We're transcending that, because that's really about kind of lack. I need this, so I'm going to give that. I want to know what you are, who I want to know about you, so I can decide if that's something I'm going to stay in relationship with to get what two halves making a whole. You take a rubber band and you twist it, you have a figure 8. You open that up, you have a circle. Well, in dimensionality, that's a sphere. So we're opening up beyond the limited transference exchange to law of availability. Now we both have everything available. And it's very interesting, because in my relationship with my husband in life, they're showing me how, you start out face to face, you're two people and you're looking at each other and your whole world is kind of limited. It's like in this little sphere. But all of a sudden, it's kind of like you go back to back. You have less in common, it seems, at a certain level, but more intimacy, more resonance, more connection that has nothing to do with what you share in common. All of a sudden, now you have a 360-degree view and access to life, because you're not closing it off like this. Now you can't be any closer. And yet everything's available. So it's the same in friendships and relationships. We're moving from this very small, I bring this, you bring that. And all of a sudden we both can access everything when we stand together. It's really exciting. So this is where we move to resonance. Two things feeling so close because the love vibration is there. It feels like there's no space, but they're still individuals. They're still able to express themselves uniquely. And this is where the sense of division can shift. And two things that are very strong in their identity and vibration and what they know and what they're interested in and what they can share can suddenly collapse into something even stronger and more resonant and less concerned about the differences.
Can you explain a little bit? That was so beautiful and just so organically stated. And I'm kind of curious, well, two things. I'm curious how the use of light language has actually transformed your own life. But I'm also, because for our audience, I'd like you to share a little bit about some of the things that you do. Like, how do you share light language with the world? What is it that you are offering to people through the use of light language?
Originally, it came through my healing sessions. And I didn't have any understanding at that time. My ability to channel or get the wisdom and the messages was pretty sporadic. And it was more, my potency felt like it was in the non-cognitive space. And I could know things while I was doing a healing session that, seemed to be useful to that person. Like I remember saying something about, I have no idea what this means. And I almost didn't say it, and then I described a vision. She's like, I know exactly what that means. That's for me. Well, and I stopped. I used to think I had to know it and understand it for it to be of value. Like a master knows what they know, and a master can teach you what they knows, and I just felt like I had none of that capacity. I've really come to believe mastery isn't in what you know. What you know as a master becomes a symptom or a manifestation of the mastery. But what the mastery is your ability to drop back into the center point of your being, where you are in totality and beyond agenda, beyond time, beyond concern for outcome. And the purest essence of you can be present. So that I've actually come to discover, my definition of mastery is that. I used to think, until I know what I know and I know how to teach what I know and I know what, I understand what I know and why I know, I can't present myself to the world. I kept trying to become more and more and more. Someday I'm going to have that mastery where I'll be able to do that. And I've totally given that up. Be you. I was trying to be a master, and the concept I had of what, yogis and these great master teachers are. And, you can teach by way showing. You can teach by living your life in a certain way. And that's just really where it's become relevant to me, is even if I'm not offering sessions, and there have been, 6 years when I was in the void space, I just really I didn't feel the joy in it. And I just kind of shut everything down. But oh my gosh, the amount of growth and blossoming that was happening inside me that I could bring out now. It was like, the chrysalis phase, of the caterpillar to the butterfly thing. And it's a joy now just to exist, just to be me, in all my limitations as they may seem to be, which are none, because there are none, because you can never be more or less than you actually are in truth. And so everything else is just a mind game. And so the joy of being who you are, as you are, when you are, whatever you are in that moment, when you have experienced beyond it, and that it really is the freedom to experience an aspect or a fractal within the totality that you are, is a joy. And that's the ability to walk through a garden and enjoy the different flowers, instead of only ever having, an aerial view of a garden as one space. And so you're both, and you get to enjoy all of it. So light language for me has been a journey of cleansing and clearing and aligning and attuning and resonating awake parts of myself that I didn't even know existed. And never knowing, because of that non-cognitive aspect of it. I'm building a dictionary now of some words and phrases, and I'm starting to get to where, I can say, well, what does that mean? And I'll get an answer. But it's still my answer. It's still my unique vibrational cognition, you could say. And somebody else's may be very different and equally valid. If they experience it and they were to ask, what does that mean for me? It may be a totally different description. And isn't that the beauty of the infinite, And so it's always our creation. Life is our canvas. And light language is just another way of expressing, but from a non-cognitive place that bypasses a lot of the story, the mind, the judgment, the concepts that the mind would want to hold us in. And so it's a incredibly efficient avenue for opening. I want to say blossoming more of yourself, because I used to think of it as clearing, and that's a kind of a third dimensional time space concept, and that we're not always as we are whole and perfect. It's the mental mind that has us believing we're not, but we always are. I mean, the essence of your being has created and animated your body. Your cells aren't even what they were 7 years ago. I mean, you're constantly in renewal, but the mind doesn't have a format for that. So, it's like every moment you're pulsed alive and awake in a new reality every moment, because creation doesn't repeat itself. It doesn't repeat itself. But the mind stitches it all together like a movie, stitches, all the different images together. And when it plays at a certain speed, it appears to be continuous. And yet, we're always sparking anew. And light language has allowed me to activate and open so much more of my DNA in my mind to accept and experience that in ways that I don't know if I could have done if I was really trying to bring everything in through mental mind, reading books, trying to understand concepts and that kind of thing. That's how it is for me. It's just, I don't need to understand anymore, because it's happening. And once it happens in your life, that is your understanding. I've had this experience. It's real for me. And nobody else needs to agree with that or believe in that. That's why I don't care about it if my kids don't. It's not that they're closed-minded, really. They have no desire for it. It's not interesting to them. If it was their soul's purpose or what they were supposed to be experiencing here, they'd probably have that inner alchemy driving them to it. And maybe they will. I didn't start that until much later. So, to love everybody in the space they're in and the experience they're in, and not look at it as they're denying you. Nobody can deny you. You can deny yourself when you're looking in a reference point through someone else's eyes and viewing yourself as not enough. But nobody can deny you if you claim yourself through your own experience, because you can't deny what you've experienced. So when you have these openings, I mean, you can be private with it. You can hide it. You can choose not to go out and expose yourself to ridicule or, judgment or whatever somebody else might do. And plenty of, I certainly did that for a while. But you can't deny the reality that you're experiencing. You can't deny when your guides wake you up in the middle of the night and start moving your body in ways for healing, that you didn't even know were possible. And I couldn't contort myself in those, when I had fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue, 3:33 every morning. And if I didn't wake up, by God, the cat would walk across my face at 3:33 and wake me up every night for weeks. I was mad. I need sleep. I have babies. I'm up already nursing and, changing diapers. I need to sleep. Wasn't going to happen, because I had prayed and asked for help, and that help was most accessible to me, it turns out, at 3:33 in the morning, which is a code, right? Energy code, Christ consciousness code. So, be careful what you ask for, because, when it shows up, it may not be in the form you like, but oh my, it'll be in the form you need.
So you've spoken so beautifully to the multidimensional beingness of the human, right? And the fact that we are all interconnected in many spiritual spaces, especially now. There are channels who profess to align with the specific energy. I speak to the Arcturians, or I hold space for the Elohim in the case of Vox, and many different other groups, right? Who do you feel your light language is connected with? Who do you feel you are channeling when you bring through your light language?
Source. Yes. And every one of those beings you described that people reference are also source. So again, what's your reference point on the ray? of the one star that is all, the great central sun, however you want to view that. So some people are looking a little up the ray that they resonate to, and oh, look at, there's that being, there's that is, and so I also feel that quite often, whatever we feel really strongly connecting to, we're actually integrating the truth and reality that we are that vibration, we are that consciousness, we're an extension of that. And really, I mean, if you really think that there is really only one essence and it's expressing through all creation, when you're in a room with a group of people, they're all extensions of you too, because that's your reality. And you're an extension of anybody who sees you in their reality. Esoterically, it can get pretty quirky out there, depending on how you look at it. But honestly, it's really all happening simultaneously. You are all, and you are individuated. But your individuation is an extension of the one that is all. And so if you embrace the paradox of that, which took me a very long time, I mean, I can remember the day it happened. Like, I had worked for 2 years on trying to make, this toggling between the finite, the infinite, the Laura, the essence, the realities that are so diverse. And all of a sudden, in a single moment, it all collapsed. And I just giggled because it was so simple. And I cannot even tell you now what I perceived that made so much sense to me, because I'm back in the, of it. But when I was in that void space, and the perfection of everything as it is, the oneness of it all was so profoundly felt. And the ability to sit in between, you could say, in the space between, in the space that's not defined by a light expression, in the void, in the potential. To go into that is the ability to embrace all of it. But a great joy is also to sit in any point of it and embrace that and have that experience as well in form, in a tangible, tactile reality where you really can have that sensory experience. I mean, isn't that a blessing too? So everybody's like trying to, get away from being the whatever finite human. But really, when you go beyond that, and when you come back to it, you have such an appreciation and a joy for it. And I call it like the cow jumped over the moon experience, because I spent years and years working on, ascension, and going up and up and up. And I was very aware of the dimensional layers. And I mean, I remember 9 was just so hard to get through. And I mean, I felt like I was birthing through, and my shoulders wouldn't go through this little tiny portal, and I finally got my shoulders, and I got myself through, like birthing through it, actual human birth. And I got on the other side of 9, into 9, on the other side of this seeming portal. And oh my gosh, 10, 11, 12 were just bump, 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 it's so easy. And everything after that feels almost like sets, or you could say harmonics. It's so easy now to just go beyond, beyond, beyond. But, it's just like trying to get. And then everything just kind of arced. I'm going out of my screen here, just kind of arced like the cow jumping over the moon. And then it became descension. Because you're first trying to raise your vibration and get the heck out of this low, dense vibrational earth experience and all the people you're around, right? And then you experience the exquisiteness of the entirety of creation. When you get to that, 12, 13D, whatever level, and then you start coming back and bringing it all with you and having some cognitive sense of what is that, what's unique about that dimension, that vibration, how is it different? And then, the stories and the lifetimes as a being in this reality and that one in this star system, whatever. And then it all kind of anchors in and integrates and embodies. And it just doesn't matter anymore, because you're all of it. And you're also none of it, because as soon as you're none of it, you're back to all of it, right? So part of the fun of going to nothing is because as soon as you're in nothing, it means you're in non-specificity. But you can never lose yourself, because your essence is in all of it, all your expressions, the essence of you as a spark of the creator of, all that. And so it's just this like worlds within worlds within worlds, but all that can become very exhausting and overwhelming. And so eventually you just settle back into, isn't it just amazing to exist?
That's interesting. And Donna's question had brought up something that I have thought of many times over and been asked many times about, like, who is it that is coming through? And in essence, it's God. And, when I was guided, because I have, the angels have been in my life forever. And I asked them, I don't want, they always say you're undefined. You're undefined. You're undefinable. But I'm like, well, I need an answer. And the answer is source. But it's interesting that they had chosen Elohim, but not in the term that many people might define it. Because Elohim to them is God, is source, the infinite creator. And so I always get the changes in the definition of what that is based upon what people's belief systems are. And I was asking the angels that, and they're that where we are source. We are the messengers of God. Right? And so I have kind of fought with that a little bit. Actually a lot. And
because I couldn't accept that I was God. And so I kept wanting something smaller.
Well, for me, it wasn't about accepting myself as God as much as other people's interpretation of what that means to them.
Right.
And yeah, so I use Elohim, and I use Elohim interchangeably with source or God and so forth. And I'd love and Donna, what can you share about that?
When I first opened up, I was receiving names, and because of the definitions or the connotations that I had been programmed with and attached to those names, I had a fear. So I said, don't give me any names. I don't want any names. I don't need a name. I don't need a label at all. If you're going to call it anything, let's call it oneness. And so that's what stuck for me. And so now when people ask, who do you channel, or what do you channel, what do you bring through? Well, it's all part of the oneness. What does it need to be for you? What do you need it to be called? Because whatever you need it to be called, it doesn't matter, because that's all part of the oneness, the unified field, the all that is, right? That we are all a part of. And with something you said earlier, Laura, about just being connected and knowing that you are existing as an individuated aspect of the oneness. For me, growing up as a child, I grew up shy and introverted, afraid of people. But now I'm in the forefront. I'm a mouthpiece for source, out in the front, in the public space, speaking to all that is of source. And I don't meet a stranger now. There is no one who I meet that is a stranger. I'm able to connect with everybody. And I think that's indicative of this triad that we have, because when you came into the space, it was like we all just connected within this space.
That is the new energy.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for expressing that, because everybody's looking for a word or a term or a name, but they can describe or explain themselves. And for you to have had the wisdom that you don't require that, that's beautiful way showing. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I realized it early on, because I realized the level or the role that fear would play in limiting what I had access to. And so I realized if I had this fear, I can't move forward. So I have to release that. And so working with my guidance, that was the path that we chose. So I never get a name. It's rare that I get a name that comes to the forefront, unless there's something very specific that needs to come out, or that needs to be, that I need to be moved toward in resonance, in owning, or I guess in accepting a certain aspect of self. But other than that, no specific name comes through for that reason. Here's the flip side of that, though. People have a tendency to listen or not listen based on the label that you provide, right? And so the impetus or the whole mission that I'm here to settle into is bringing people back into a space of heart-centeredness. And so in order to accept what it is that's coming through this vessel as channel, you have to get into that heart space and feel into it. So that's the call. It's not going to play to your logical mind. It's going to speak to your heart. So as you are able to sit in that space and resonate to any degree, settle in any degree in that heart space, you'll allow yourself to open and expand in gradual measure to receive that which comes through. So I think that's collectively what we're moving toward. It's heart-centered beingness, heart-centered alignment, because that's what's in tune with the Christ consciousness itself. Yeah.
I agree, and that's just so beautifully stated. Thank you. And it takes me back to what Vox said about what were you? Where was I going with that? Something that you had just said. In and out. Oh, but the quantum nature of everything. Oh, about identification with it, because you were saying you wanted to know what part of God you were connecting to, and they were saying it was undefinable. But if you think about it, God is undefinable. And so that makes perfect sense. And yes, we can, put a name on a fractal aspect, a collective consciousness, some part that the collective has agreed to. I call it often like archetypes. It's something that everybody has sort of a reference point for. But we're at a time where we're transcending archetypes and we're transcending reference points that the collective has locked into, and that's kept us in old consciousness and in repeating consciousness. And what I've even been experiencing, which is really fun, everything in creation, not just humans, wants to be more, wants to know itself as more. And we've locked down. Part of the whole last era has been defining through science and, investigation and all this, everything, locking it down into its nth degree of minute, autopsy, understanding, breaking it apart and labeling everything. And we're actually going back to essence. So that's all this fractalization into, microcosm and micro understandings. But we're actually going back along that track, you could say, not because it wasn't worth doing. That was part of the exploration, to take everything to its nth degree of fractalization. But now there's a desire. We've done it. We've gone to the nth degree, to the, omega point, alpha omega point, right? Beginning and end. And now we're on the return back to the essence, because a lot of what fractalized in this reality was formed from distortion. So when we go back to essence now, which is the oneness, the essence, the isness, the undefinable, the quantum state, we can actually bring the energy back through new fractals, new expressions, new blueprints, new possibilities, without the distortion of the duality, the lack, the belief in cause, effect, time, transference, because the time lock on the planet is opened. So that means a whole lot of things are possible now, than we could have experienced them when we were in a time lock.
I think that this actually would be a wonderful time for you to share your experiential demonstration with our audience of the work that you do. And if you could maybe tell us, preface it by telling us a little bit about what it is that you're sharing with us. Like what is it that you would like people to know about this experience?
Okay. So I was, checking in with the guides. What do they want to bring through in this sharing space? Boy, I've just been waiting for the opening. Can you just feel that? So, Sinta. And I really have been playing with this, finding it interesting that it sounds like S-E-E-N, Sinta, but it's spelled, and they were very clear about S-I-N. And I think it's very funny because this is so powerfully embracing of all of life, and yet the word sin. You know, you talk about a complete inversion of reality. And how did we distort? We took something so pure and perfect and beautiful and flipped it and made it, evil or dark or the wrong thing, right? No. So Sinta. So in light language, as I understand the words, ta at the end of a phrase means an invitation to to feel, to feel. So Sinta is an invitation to feel seen. And it's spelled the way I get it, S-I-N. And so I said, so what is the scene? And they said, it's the exquisiteness and perfection of life. And I mean life with a capital L, meaning creation, all creation, and we're part of that. So this energy is what they want to bring in, and it's cosmic levels of hope, renewal, and vitality. And while I was writing that today, the word that like encompassed all that came in after that was literally longevity. Just breathe that in and feel that. And it's not a longevity against death or a longevity against disease. It's a longevity born of the like immortal nature of the original human design that exists until it's ready to shift into something else. And that is part of the exquisiteness and perfection of the human design, original human design that we're returning to, is the aliveness, the vitality, the joy of being. And that word that's joy of the supreme joy of being came into me in light language as arata. And to me means truth. Ra, the light of the light, source light, and ta being to feel. So arata is to feel the supreme joy of being, the truth of being the light. So arata is encompassed within Sinta, the exquisiteness and perfection of life as part of creation. So that's what they wanted to bring through. Shall we begin? Just take a deep breath and feel your body, because this is not about going out of your body ever anymore. Everything is about feeling it in your body, and that is embodying what is and bringing it here. No longer are we going out of the body to experience. We're recognizing the universe is within. Everything is within us, and everything in our reality and our experience and our is in the sensory intelligence, the cellular intelligence, the source intelligence, the multidimensional quantum nature, star nature, capacity and intelligence of your very essence that forms your body as the vessel that you reside here in, and you are never separate or apart from that. Shalahe sikriki arotamana kaile esarayawa. Shukuro shanana hatanene kirikiawa. Shubariawa kala asara atanene kiriki. Shabariano kaine salakiaro tai awasho kaiwa. Baliawa kasana manakaile esa. Osa. Ama. Kale. Kale ela sum, kale ela kai, ola kai wa sutuno manakai le esa. Alia wakashine ne kirikiharo tana manakai le esa. Porro patana kala sutana manakai. Shalakai, eleki alako takasa shalakai. Bea wakosha. Shemeneki halok chinea. Belo koyawaka. Sele e kiriki asutana manakai. Ale, alo, ala, ama, ana, kale esa kirikia, shubarakai, aloka, sanamanakai lea, ale, aloka, sa, shentene meniki, ashorotai, aleawa, shenene kirikiawa, kalakai, awasuta, namanakai, ale, alo, ala, ama, ana, kale awasuta, namanakai, le esa bariawaka. Sheberea wakiano. Sheberea no koya wakai. Subaraya no kaine sakariawa. Aleawa Aleawako shai. Ejanaki alokoya no kaina manakaiawa. Subarayawa. Obakasa. Ea. Oma. Hala. Shenene kihirehiwe. Shubiriawa kaine e sabariawa kola kaine. Oma ala, oma ala, oma ala, oma ala, oma ala. Shum. Jeje na kala kainesa. Aliawa kaine esa. Shurugia wakaine esa. Alea wakaya no osa. Be esikiria wa shubaraya no kuya wakaile. Aleawa salakaine sabaria wakaine. Ale alo ala ama ana shenene kiawa. Olai me kiawa. Eshanana kalasa shurukuchine. Aleawa kaine esa. Palkia lokaine e sakuya. Shene era kocha taine elebia wa kusha pai. Aum, shelea. Be kirikia wusha. Ele esa kaina uma. Shentene achia wakoya wakaya wasuta na manakaya washi. Alia wakaino hobai. Alia wako shamanakaiye. Bala 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 Alea wakaishi ne kirikia wakoba su kaya wako shanana kaya. Ale, alo, ala, ama, shebea wakaine esa kariawa. Shukuruko ya no kochine neneki. Ale, alo, ala, ama, ana, Ale, alo, ala. Ama, ana, ewa, shibiri, ikihi, shananakahi, ale, alo, ala, ama, ana, ewa, sutana manakai yawa, jejene, anakai, eleki, alako, takasa, shim, sham, boya wakosha, sheereki harota hai. Shaum. Ale, alo, ala, ama, ana, Azabakaine esgrikiawa. Oropakashine nekiawa. Jeje na ne, jawa. Beawashu chinana kai. Ale, alo, ala, ama, ana, Ale, alo, ala. Ama, akaiwa, ala, jejena, ale, alo, ala, ama, ana. And so it is, beloveds, and so it is. You are the exquisite perfection of life, creation. You are this that you are. Makiawa Koshanai. Live your aliveness. It is your gift to life. We see you as one. And it is so. And there's nothing to do to make it so. For it is. And this is the truth of you. You're awakening to and opening to allow yourself to reside in and trust and know it is so. And in this, we love and embrace you at every level of your being. And we celebrate you, for it is already known. Alo, ala, ama, ana, ale, alo, ala, ama, ana.
That was absolutely beautiful and very potent. And I am just guided to be in conversation with you on that level. Tuko respira manatur spokutre, ma ere jasatutur spikire non tush. Escuch matrepire sakairu undrepe. Las achekere. Back atutra spakira matutra andiere. Saed sakuko shotremin. En bikera mokutres paere. Atukon respis otra sura rakitchen. Tu Sinta garotras putan. Das kutre mirian. Otes utuan te kere putras po.
Jajanane kiriki arota I nemene ki arota I. Alia bachona katene kiriki arota I sikiriki. Rupa sasana. Jejena kai. Rupa kasai. Jejena tene. Rupa kasi kishine. Rupa kasaine oshakara tai. Alia wakashi ne kiriki hawakasha. El lava kaine he satona manakai lava.
Haroto shandarame atando kai satarma isia rotanda kai so a ve arude asia rotama afarutande asho mirita avuru hirate ad hier sonderema afurute tanda ve orisia disierutamat irutanda sota arvasat hier sondea su merotunde asha viodea Sierra Sanda Merutea Isha Sendea.
Yawakashi ne ki harota na manakai yawa on. Ale alo ala ama ana on. Sham kalakaya on. Woo!
That was beautiful. I feel just this buzzing vibration that's just scrumptious. I don't tell you what.
Pure joy, pure joy. Love it, love it. What a co-creation, what a beautiful thing. This inspiration you had, and you've brought it to life, and you're going to have this experience with so many other light language sharers, but also that whole audience of people participating with their energy, their attention, their whole beautiful open-heartedness in that space, which co-creates and calls forth whatever that whole group is ready for. What a joy.
Well, and I would love, I mean, it's just been such a blessing to have you here with us today. And I'm so happy that we found you, basically, to be a part of this. And I guess I would ask now, what is the best way for our audience to connect with you for further information or to take, have the opportunity to take part in any of your offerings?
Yeah. So my name, laurapierett.com, will get you to my website, which is Source Heart Alchemy. It's what I call what I do, which is just a phrase for so many things I can't even describe. But on my website, you can book sessions, you can read about light language, you can, read the blog, have experiences with some video blogs, be it my own audios, and always with my light language, it seems there's messages, loving divine messages. So I call it light language, but the audios have that as well, which helps people bring the mind along and feel that more, the words give them a reference point for what's happening and where we are and the love that's coming through and that we're so well supported. So all that is there in the blog, also in a page called Sound Alchemy Divination, I think is in the menu. And that takes you into something I was inspired to create, almost like divination cards, how the back is all the same and you cannot choose without using your intuition what you want to listen to. So I'm really, kind of encouraging people to use their intuition. If you really need a name, a title, or a length of it, go to the blog. It'll be there in a more definable form. But on this other page, it's like just drop in on any given time you want to visit when you just want to be inspired and, immerse in all of this beautiful energy. And you just hover over one of those indistinguishable audios, and then it'll flip and it'll give you the play button. So that's on the website. I've been a little bit dormant, actually. I'm just coming out of really a 6-year, cave space. And I think a lot of people have been in cave space. So I really don't have a lot of new things there right now. You can sign up to my email list. I am coming out of that and feeling more inclined to share, being guided, that I'm being shown that we're going to be doing more communication, more channeled messages, that sort of thing. I've got a new word because I was asking my guides, I'm so not resonating with the word channel. It's just not working for me anymore. And the feeling that I'm just an empty hose, that something comes through is how channel always felt to me. And I said, what is it we're really doing now? This real connectedness through the core of your being and calling forth through resonance, whatever's perfect for the moment. And I love the phrase they gave me, intrapathic communication. And because I had to actually go Google, it's like, okay, what's the difference between intra and inter and what, and it's within one. Like intra, as opposed to international, is within one country. So within the oneness of our beingness, the communication is intrapathic. Isn't that interesting? So I guess I'm going to be describing or introducing this new concept of channeling as intrapathic communication with the oneness, within the one that we are, and calling forth whatever is resonant and vibrating and pulsing to be known and remembered and revealed or perceived or, illumined in our experience and through our experience with others. So that's getting exciting to me that I haven't really felt excited about for a while, doing something new. I have something new on my website that has been coming in since last year, and it's mastery codes. They're really talking to me a lot about 9, and it feels like it's the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, all the way up kind of thing. So the 9 dimensions starting with the 5th, and this whole mastery that's available from 5D up in our multidimensionality, you could say, that we don't experience in 3 and 4. Because we're still in that time separation and identity kind of aspect. So that's there, and nobody has taken me up on it yet. So I can offer it as individual 4 sessions individually, or I'm interested in doing a group if people want to have a group experience with that. It reduces the cost for each individual that participates with the group. And I think that'd be real interesting and fun to do. That's all out there. The bonus packages that I put with this program is new. It's the newest messages I've had from 2024. I haven't even gotten on my website yet. So there's 4 intrapathic communications in an ebook format that has the transcription there for you, as well as the audio for people who want to hear those loving messages in their own voice. So the light language, you'll have to listen to the audio to catch that, but I've transcribed the English messages for you. And then that is, I guess, the other is the special offer package, which is one of my Source Heart Alchemy sessions and a download of my Daily Dose of Love series, which is 192 tracks, which if you listen to one a day, it's a 6.5 month ascension journey. And there's a 54-page companion guide with some transcriptions of those energies and testimonials from people who went on that journey over a couple of years before I kind of packaged it up in a album download sort of format. So that's also available as the purchase program of a session and that download. The other one is the free bonus, and that's called, the free one is Creation Speaks, and that's the beginning possibly of a book.
Beautiful. I love the term intrapathic communication. Well, this has been absolutely extraordinary spending this time with you and getting to know more about you and just meeting you in general. And we're honored to walk with you on this journey. Before we close, do you have like one statement that you would like to leave, to close with for humanity?
Kiano shona manakai elebe esa kirikiawa. Shukurota na manakai le esa shukukuyawa. Se etini minikiawa shutai oloko shana manakai le. Sabariawa kashinene kihatona manakai. Aliachutai ne kishana. Sholo o kahine hesa. Boko shana na makahine kiha. Ale esariki arota. Sabriado kahine esa shuchuchine neki. Ariatoka namana kaile asutaine hasavareawa. Eke ishinene ishananakai. Ale alo ala ama ana om.
Beautiful.
And what I get from that is trust yourself. You are enough. Always. Everything you want is within you already. And it's time to let it be easy. It's time to let go of the struggle for what you think is beyond you. And more melt and fall into who you really are, that's always within you. And it is truly always exactly right. No matter what you think and feel and believe about that, that is the truth. So when you let the guard fall away of the mind that's always trying to understand what the spirit is doing, because it's not what the mind would be choosing to do, the mind can become the witness. You don't get rid of it. You don't diminish it. Let it be the witness of what the spirit is doing for you, with you, as you, and through you. And everything will become so much simpler, because then you won't be in struggle trying to understand what's happening. You'll be in fascination and curiosity and perhaps enamorment of what is happening. And if you allow that for yourself, you will become enamored with it, with yourself. And when you become enamored with yourself, you will become enamored with everyone else who's an extension of yourself. And everything blossoms in that space that you allow, that you can't anticipate, you can't direct, you can't understand before it happens. But boy, can you be awed when it does. And so enjoy your lives and enjoy your Sinta, the feeling of the exquisiteness of being in life.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing in this light language conversation. Thank you, Andana. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you at the next roundtable.
Thank you both so much. And all of you beautiful ones that will be tuning in, you are the seed carriers. You're like seeds. You have so many seeds inside you that are going to burst into the fabric of life that's ready now. And you question all the time, what do I have to offer? You don't even have to know what it is. I often don't. It will just burst through you, even silently, through your vibration, when you sit in your heart space. And you don't need to know anything, and you don't need to know how to do anything with it. If you're in your heart space, you're bursting seeds into the fabric of life, and who knows where they're going to root. And isn't that the fun? Let it be fun. Let it be easy. Let it be a joy to be you. Even if you don't know what it is you're doing, and no one else does either, and you won't be able to tell them. Who cares?
And on that note, we'll see you all next time.
Ale, hello, ala, ama, ana.
Tu se vedre, caira batu suere matres pura, tacere de, kutu. Perché tutte rispagliano a gente. Su cui amatoscia, tu pacutro spiratu. Ancora. Continua a suonare ieri sera. Sempre che appunto risparmiamo. Di tu.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.